Well, maybe I said running, but he was more...
You said he's running.
Yes. He was like skipping and going away quickly, but he wasn't running out of fear.
The defendant realizes, oh, that doesn't look good, because that means I'm chasing him. That means Trayvon Martin is the one that's scared. That doesn't look good for me. So what does he say? Oh, he's skipping away. La, la, la.
One of the memorable moments from the closing argument for Prosecutor Bernie Della Rianda. We've got my experts with us, and I want to talk about this closing argument and hit or miss on some of these points that he was making. That one, I thought was a little bit of a hit.
That was a definitely hit, because he's saying that if George Zimmerman will lie about the most important part of this case, did he follow Trayvon Martin, then how can we believe anything else he says?
Yeah, but it looked a little dorky. It looked a little amateur.
Hey, I look a little dorky from time to time, too, Monica. That's hurtful. I can hear you.
All right, let's take a listen to another one now. Bernie Della Rianda talking about the street signs in Frank Taffy's neighborhood. Take a listen.
And by the way, there's only 3 streets. How difficult can it be? And he's the neighborhood watch guy. He's been living there 4 years, and he takes his dog down to that dog walk. But he doesn't know the names of the street. He doesn't know the main street that you go in.
Frank Taffy, you live in that neighborhood. What are the name of the 3 streets?
Twin Trees, Long Oak, and Retreat View Circle.
All right. Why doesn't George Zimmerman know?
Well,
he didn't do his homework.
I just found out after the incident happened. I didn't even know the name of that street, and I took you down that street. And if you notice that the sign is only when you come in and at the end of that street, in that area where the shooting took place, you can't see a sign.
Right, but this guy's purporting to be a neighborhood watchman. If you're the guy who watches the neighborhood, you got to know the street signs if you're doing your job, unless you're just an unabated murderer.
I lived there 5 years longer than George, and I didn't even know the name of that street.
Were you the neighborhood watchman?
I was neighborhood watch, yes.
All right,
yeah, but the jury is ultimately going to have to decide whether that passed the smell test for them.
Right, let's take a listen to more of Bernie Della Rianda. Here he's talking about his dream.
I had a dream that today a witness would be judged not on the color of her personality, but of the content of her testimony. On the content of her testimony. Just because she's got a colorful personality, just because she referred to me as a bald-headed dude or whatever, that doesn't mean her story, her statements aren't accurate.
Hit or miss?
It wasn't quite MLK, but it was effective.
That, to me, as a bald dude, that was a miss. And by the way, I say this as an advocate, not just as a bald dude. If you want to quote Martin Luther King and make that point that people are to be judged based on the content of their character and not their skin color, then cite him and quote him. But don't tweak that. It's almost like
let's take a look at one other moment.
It's subtly racist.
One other moment from the closing argument today. Take a listen.
I mean, that wasn't information that he was providing to the operator, like, okay, he is a, pardon my language, so when the officer comes, he can go, pardon my language, oh, where are you?
Hit or miss with that. He's talking about the language that George Zimmerman was using to describe Trayvon Martin.
Hey, Vinny,
that was a hit.
Hey, Vinny, what if you used the word cracker punk? Would we still be having this conversation?
Yes, because he used the word.
Yeah,
he
those are
used
the words
effing
that
punk.
But how old was he? He was 28 years old. That word is very commonly used
It's not
today.
commonly
Trayvon
used
was
for someone that
16.
you love. That's not a loving word.
That's
just
very
It's not.
effective.
Is it
It's
not?
very
Bias and spite,
effective
buddy.
when you use a defendant's words against them.
That's right.
And
Okay.
that's what
Well,
he did.
From an
in this
advocacy
case.
standpoint, I think that's a hit.
That's a hit. All right. Everyone says a hit except Frank, but let's go over to Joey Jackson. What does our jury think about all this?
You know, that's important to know because the experts, of course, have things to say, but the jury, the people deciding it, they, of course, have things to say, too. And I'll start with you, Juror 1.
I just think that today, one of the most important things the prosecutor said was that all Trayvon did was go buy Skittles and buy some tea, and now he's dead. And that really was very riveting to me. If I was a juror, I would take that as a really, he racially profiled him for sure, 100%.
An emotional moment. Juror number 9.
Well, I think it was very effective for the prosecutor to bring in the parents when he said that the photos, that the parents would never be able to take any photos of this child. And this would be the last photo that they would see and be able to even look at because they couldn't take any more photos. That was effective. It brought in emotion. It brought in his parents in the trial.
And it hit home with you.
Absolutely.